Mindset, a daily dose of practical wit and wisdom with a professional educator and trainer, Amazon best-selling author, United States Marine, television and radio host, Paul G. Markel. Each episode will focus on positive and productive ways to strengthen your mindset and help you improve your relationships, career goals, and overall well-being. Please welcome your host, Paul G. Markel.
Hello and welcome back. And I am your host, Paul Markel, and this is Morning Mindset Podcast, and thank you for joining me today. I will admit to you guys that I approached today's topic, today's show, with just a little bit of trepidation, because this topic hits close to my own heart. I have a time with patience, and yes, my children and my wife will attest to that. But I wanted to speak on it, even though I may not be an expert at applying it. I know that I need to apply it. Recently, I encountered a situation where a person was trying my patience. They were trying my patience, and I was, taking the deep breaths and trying not to be impatient. I really, really was. And then I realized, as I looked a little bit closer, that the reason that this person was trying my patience was because they were under a pretty good amount of emotional distress and nervousness. They were nervous. They were emotionally distressed at the moment. And I realized that. I had that moment of clarity where I realized that even though they hadn't told me, they hadn't said anything to me, that they were feeling nervous or that they were, feeling stress, I sensed it and I realized it. And at that moment in time, I thought to myself, you know what, Paul? You need to cut them a little bit of slack. You need to give this person some of your patience. You need to be patient with them. Because they're going through something right now that they're going to get over and they're going to get beyond it. But right now, at this very moment in time, what they need from you is they need for you to take a couple of extra deep breaths and exercise some patience. And so I did. And of course, I'm always thinking about this show. Wherever I go and whatever I do, if I'm in a car, or if I'm talking to people or whatever, I'm constantly thinking of new topics to talk about during Morning Mindset Podcasts, and this was one of them. I actually sat down and I wrote some notes afterwards. But how can we develop patience as men and women, as children, as parents, as employees, as supervisors and managers and bosses? How can we develop patience in a world of, we have constant distraction and we have the constant expectation of instant gratification? Look around you, whether it is Amazon or whether it's McDonald's or whatever it is in our world, just about everywhere you go to spend money, you expect instant gratification. Seriously. How many times have you gone to a place of business or a restaurant and someone is not getting what they want immediately and starts to lose it? Not because they're being denied service or not because the service was poor or absent, but because they were having to wait. And they were having to wait longer than they should have, or at least they thought they should have. And that could have only been a couple of minutes. And why is that? How is it that as a society in general, we have lost the ability to exercise patience with others? Could it be because we live in a world of constant mental distraction? Could it be because we've been conditioned to believe that everything we want, we should have, and the way we want it immediately? And when we don't get what we want immediately, the way we expected it to be, we lose it. We have no patience. Now, I'm not talking about accepting poor behavior. I'm not talking about accepting or, condoning bad behavior. That's not it at all. One thing that I want to touch on is the fact that it is just as important to have patience with yourself as it is to have patience with others. Have you ever found that you're beating yourself up mentally because you didn't achieve or do something that you thought you should have? Or maybe you came up short. And it doesn't matter what other people say. You are your own greatest critic. And in your mind, you're beating yourself up because you didn't achieve. You didn't meet the standard. You didn't do or perform as your expectations. You didn't perform up to your expectations. Sometimes we need to have a little patience with ourselves. We've talked about setting goals. We've talked about, voluntary hardship. We have talked about a lot of ways to develop yourself, both physically and mentally. And you say, all right, I know to do that, and I know what I'm supposed to do, and I know I should do it. And then I don't, or I fall short, and I get angry with myself. It's just important to have patience with yourself. Recently, when I got off the road from the few weeks, I know I'm talking about this a lot, but it's what happened in my life recently. I got back into my own gym, into my own training area. And while we were on the road, we were moving around quite a bit. We spent a lot of time in cars, hours upon hours. We went from hotel to hotel to hotel. And I only had a couple of opportunities to train, to do any kind of real serious strength training. Now, normally my routine is 3 times a week, 3 dedicated training days per week. Well, we were on the road for not quite 2 weeks, and I only had 2 opportunities to do it. So I was off my game a little bit. I was out of my rhythm. And when I got back into my own gym, I did the prescribed training session that my coach had given me. And I found that I wasn't achieving. I wasn't hitting the goals that I was supposed to hit. And I got kind of frustrated with myself. I got very frustrated. I was angry at my own body for not hitting those goals, those strength training goals, those lifting goals. And I talked to my coach about it, and he was very patient, and I admitted to him, I was like, look, you told me to do it this many times, this much weight, and I wasn't able to do it. I failed. And he displayed patience with me, and he said, look, I understand. It doesn't seem like you're working that hard when you're just in a car and you're traveling. He said, but traveling takes a lot out of you, and traveling can negatively affect your training schedule. And it's okay. He told me, he said, go eat a steak and, get a nap, and we'll work on it. He exercised patience with me, and he reminded me that I needed to have a little bit of patience with myself. All right, folks, I am your host, Paul Markel. I truly appreciate you guys being out there in the Morning Mindset audience. If you'd like to read more from me, your host, you can go to Amazon.com or Kindle. And if you have a Kindle reader on your phone, just type in Paul G. Markel, and you can find all my books on Kindle. Or if you're a paperback kind of a person, go to Amazon.com, order them. They'll be sent to you directly, prime shipping. There you go. Talk to you again real soon.
Thank you for spending time with us today. To get show notes, submit a topic request, and for more from your host, Paul G. Markel, visit morningmindsetpodcast.com. That's morningmindsetpodcast.com. Please leave a review for this podcast on your favorite podcast player. We appreciate your time and effort, and we look forward to reading your honest feedback.